hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. We've got an old friend with us again today. It's none other than the Dane. Yes, Mr. Kris Broholm himself from Actual Fluency. Kris, thanks for taking some time out this afternoon. I can't say thanks for staying in to do this call. You're in the north of England. What's the lockdown like where you are?
It's pretty bad. I was loitering a little bit in a parking lot the other day, and the police came over and asked me what I was doing. So, yeah, it's pretty serious.
Yeah. It is frustrating, even for someone like me who's quite an introvert. I'm starting to wonder, am I actually getting more cabin fever than I realise? But I'm glad in the UK at least we're allowed to go out once a day to take some exercise. I don't know about you, I live near a really lovely park, so I go out to walk or to run, most days. So, and I think
Yeah, I don't do that, but
you don't do that.
Do have a park nearby.
Routine is so important. I think keeping some sort of routine in these crazy times. Now, talking of routines, Kris, how about that for a smooth segue? You have now since 2014 regularly been putting out podcasts, Actual Fluency. That's what many people may know you for. What's going on with the podcast at the moment?
Well, I just put out a small update podcast, sort of a little in-betweener, or I don't know what you call it, like a little update episode. But it's coming back. I took some time to get ready and get used to the situation we're in now, get my little setup here in the kitchen done. And I've got a few episodes already recorded, and I am expecting to keep the sort of weekly publishing schedule from now on, so people can look forward to fantastic interviews with a lot of people that haven't been on before, and hopefully return with some familiar voices as well. Some of the old favorites might swing back and share a few more stories. You
have now moved into your first ever language product, which is called Bite-Sized Languages, which is really why I wanted to invite you on today to tell us a bit about that. But before we do that, it is focused on listening skills. I've had a bit of a sample, folks. I've had a bit of a play around with the course. So I'm not coming at this completely cold. But I wanted to ask you first, Kris, before we talk in detail about the product, about Bite-Sized Languages, then why do you think listening skills are underrated, and why does it matter for language learning?
I think, for me anyway, one of the reasons that I didn't do a lot of it in my own personal language learning is just it's tricky to find when you're a beginner. It really is, like, because you can go on and find lots of native level materials. You can go on TV channels, you can go on YouTube channels, you can find so much content out there for the language you're learning. But when you're a beginner, there's just there's really limited resources and even fewer convenient resources. So I think that's a big block.
Yeah, I think some people have been conditioned as well by their school experience. Now, it may depend on people's vintage, but those of us like me who were in school when teachers had reel-to-reel tape recorders, and it was sort of écouter et répéter, and then the tape would get stuck. So it was actually rather technologically difficult. Or then there were language laboratories with cassette tapes and so on. But many people may have found that in school, actually, listening was undervalued by teachers. For those of us who are a bit older, it wasn't possible really to pick up radio. There was no internet.
Right.
And that has rather influenced sort of classroom teaching. Now, that is changing now. I think the current generation of school teachers really understand that listening skills have been underrated and that more of that is being done. But it does feel maybe something from a teacher's perspective where if you're just switching on some audio, you're not doing enough. So the teacher wants to be doing stuff to help the students. And then maybe some of us have taken that as thinking language learning always has to be about doing exercises or actually speaking, with all the current generation of, just go out there and speak type advice that there is.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. The advice of speaking early, but I know for a fact that I skipped over a lot of the, you call it really comprehensible input. It's kind of like the category it goes under. But I know I skipped that a lot. And for me, when I went out to speak, it was just hard to understand when a word was ending and a new one was beginning.
Yeah.
And that's all comes down to listening, really. Yeah. And there are other side effects of listening, like, for instance, your own pronunciation, which is something it took me some time to realize. But actually, the more you listen to the target language, especially content that you can understand, the more you realize the differences, the small differences in pronunciation. Like in Russian, for instance, you have all the S sounds, like sure, there's 50 different S sounds, right? But if you don't listen to the content over and over, your ear just can't hear the difference. So I would have tutoring lessons in Russian early on, and my tutor would repeat two S sounds to me and said, "Do you not hear the difference?" And I would have to be honest and say, "No, they sound
Yeah.
the same to me."
Yeah.
That's a product of not listening enough.
Yes, and tuning in your ear. I always say put sound central in your language learning. And I share my accommodation here with a Catalan, and she has difficulty with the difference between the V and the B sound, for example.
Yeah.
And we in English have two L sounds in standard British English, the so-called dark and the light L's. And in the word little, there are two different L's, but most of us in our brains, we think it's one sound. But actually, that distinction is quite important in some languages like Polish and Russian, that these fine gradations, these different phonemes, as they're called, become really significant. So the more practice you can get, it seems to me, the better. But you're saying the problem is, it's most efficient. I think one thing I got right when I was starting to learn back in the day when there was no internet and I was working on my French, I was listening on the old crackly long wave radio in the evening, medium wave in the evening. We could get French radio, native level, not the most efficient for me because it was way above, but better than nothing. But you're saying your course now has gone out to provide sort of a graded, this comprehensible input listening experience. So could you tell us a bit about the format then of the course? What languages are we talking about, first of all?
Sure. So I went with the kind of top five
So
languages.
that's Welsh, Basque, Japanese, Danish, and what would the fifth be?
That sounds like Dr. Popkin's language courses.
Go on, tell us what it is.
We've got Spanish, French, Italian, German, and Russian as well. So
okay, so an eccentric five. Okay, well,
I mean, we're really hoping to cover I guess that covers like 70 to 80% of people watching this. So that's kind of the strategy. We might expand it to later languages because now we've got really a formula here for languages. They follow the same kind of pattern, which is also helpful if you pick up the bundle, then you can actually learn one language through the knowledge you gained in the first course. So, it's like a laddering.
Say I'm learning German, and what level are you at? Would this be for, first of all? Bite-sized German, then?
So you can really use it from day one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I think that there is some merit to maybe using some beginner materials as well, or maybe in conjunction with. But it is really designed for complete beginners as well to understand and get those inputs from the sounds. And it doesn't matter that you don't understand anything, or I mean, if you're an English speaker and you're getting through the German course, there are going to be cognates. That's good in all languages, actually. Even Russian has cognates in English. So it's really from total beginners to something like, if you're in the beginning stages of a language learning, once you reach the intermediate levels, it'll probably be a little bit too easy for you. But, we had one of the beta testers had learned German ages ago, and she said that it was a great refresher for her. So it might be useful way into the intermediate stages, but in general, we're aiming for kind of beginner level.
Yeah, so someone who's done a few chapters in a Teach Yourself book or something like that, perhaps. And what am I going to find in the course then in bite-sized German, though? That still isn't clear to me.
Sure. So you've got 100 dialogues, and they're I think that's about 8 sentences in each. So it's 2 persons, one man, one female, one woman, one man. Simply just listen to those dialogues over and over again. And we have an app that allows you to do that really easily, especially hands-free. Just put it in your pocket, and the app will just play through all the dialogues, nonstop. But then you get lesson notes, you get grammar notes, transcripts, translations. So you can also dive into each individual lesson, which has as much time and intensity as you want to. So if you felt like you've listened to every lesson, 20 times or 50 times, whatever, then you can go back and you can read the transcript and read the translation and go and suddenly start to solidify some of the learning that you've done sort of by ear.
I was struck by, they are pretty short dialogues, as you say, about 8 sentences. And so it's quite easy to maintain your focus and concentration, because the mini dialogue, which I think we could call them, is over in 30 seconds, say. So and then, as you say, I tested it on my mobile using the app, and then it will move automatically. You can stop it, or it will move to the next dialogue. So I was listening when I was jogging. So you can get through quite a lot of these dialogues.
think it's great,
But then you've also got then I tried it on the desktop using the desktop interface or the laptop interface. And of course, you've got the transcripts there, which you can read on the screen. Could you print them out? Or
Absolutely,
yeah. So you could then work. You could actually pull apart, which is something I recommend doing, and I have my students doing in my intermediate level German course. Sort of use it working with transcripts to pull apart a text.
Yes.
Maybe doing a dictation exercise even. There are different ways you could work creatively with these very short audio clips and the transcripts.
You have all the resources available to design it exactly like you want. Our friend, our mutual friend, Luca Lampriello, for instance, he really loves printing out transcripts and just listening over and over while he studies the transcript. And so if that's the way you do it, then that's absolutely available to you. But I guess we'll find out when we get a lot of people through these courses exactly how many ways you can actually use it to learn.
Yeah, it really is very conversational, useful language. And then you've got sort of short vocab lists, some of the key vocab, a bit of grammar explanation pulled out. So each of the 100 sessions is self-contained in a way. So you could also stagger it by doing one a day, really, couldn't you? And then maybe over 5 days and then repeating them at the weekend. Those are into sort of habit like I am. Or you could just, go all out, do a few, then listen again later on in the week. So, okay, Kris. So it's clear, I think, what the courses offer. It's for people who want to focus on listening, want to do it in small bites if they want. There are different ways you can work with it. We've got these 5 major languages. It's native speaker audio, and you've partnered with natives to design and explain the language so that we're sure that it's native language. And now there's going to be a launch. Let's start to talk about the deal now, Kris. We folks are recording this on Saturday, the 2nd of May, 2020. So if you're seeing this in the future, then the deal won't necessarily apply. The product will still be available through the link I'm going to put at the bottom of this video. But the launch is tomorrow, Kris, Sunday, the 3rd of May, 2020.
Right.
It's a lockdown launch.
For this week, the first week that it's out, we want to do something really special. And so what I'm doing is I'm doing 5 for the price of 1. So if you want pick any of them and I'll send you the 4 other courses free of charge. So I think that's a fantastic deal, and I can safely say that will never be available again after this week is over. Not even for Black Friday, not for Cyber Monday, not for Christmas, not for New Year. It'll never be that deal again. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, so this is going on through to the end of the first week of May, to Friday, the end of Friday.
Absolutely.
And gates are opening then tomorrow on Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you probably post this video tomorrow.
I will post this video tomorrow. You're quite right. Folks, the course is open now. Yes.
Go buy.
The professional YouTube star. I messed it up yet again. Anyway, thanks, Kris. Thanks a lot for taking the time to tell us about bite-sized language. And I've tried it. I think there's definitely a place for this as part of, the listening component, which is so important of people's, armory. If you're a beginner or a false beginner in any of those big 5 languages. And if you're not, whatever level you're at, whatever language you're learning, remember, sound is central. Listening skills are really important. Kris, thank you very much for being with us today. Folks, thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon here again on the channel. I'll put the link to Bite-Sized Languages underneath this video. See you soon. Bye.